David and Maria Thompson never imagined their names would disappear behind a title like that. David worked 2 jobs, one as a janitor at a local high school during the day, and another stocking shelves at a warehouse at night. Maria cleaned houses, sometimes 3 in a single day, her hands always smelling of bleach and lemon soap. They lived in a tiny apartment with thin walls, where the heater rattled in winter and the air conditioner barely survived summer. They were poor by every definition people cared about. But what no one ever measured was how rich they were in patience, love, and unbreakable faith. Their mornings started before sunrise. David would quietly slip out of bed, careful not to wake Maria or their son, Ethan. He would stand by the door for a moment, looking back at his family, whispering a short prayer. Not for wealth, not for comfort, but for strength. Maria would wake later, pack Ethan's lunch with whatever she could manage, sometimes cutting a sandwich into fun shapes just to hide the fact that it was the same simple meal as yesterday. Ethan knew they were different from other families. Other kids had new shoes every year. Other parents came to school events in nice cars and clean clothes. Ethan's parents came tired, sometimes late, sometimes still wearing work uniforms. He felt embarrassed when classmates asked why his dad smelled like cleaning chemicals, or why his mom never came to school meetings during the day. One evening, when Ethan was about 10 years old, he finally said it out loud. "Why are we so poor?" he asked quietly at the dinner table. The room went silent. David froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. Maria lowered her eyes. That question had been living in their home for years, waiting to be spoken. David took a deep breath. "Son," he said gently, "we may not have much money, but we have each other. And we have dreams. Being poor today doesn't mean being poor forever." Ethan nodded, but deep inside he wasn't convinced. Life tested that promise sooner than anyone expected. One winter, David slipped on an icy floor at the warehouse and injured his back. The doctor said he needed rest, weeks of it. Rest was a luxury they couldn't afford. Medical bills piled up. Rent fell behind. Maria worked longer hours, coming home exhausted, sometimes crying quietly in the bathroom so Ethan wouldn't hear. One night, the landlord knocked on their door with a warning. One more missed payment and they would have to leave. That night Maria broke down. "I'm tired," she whispered to David. "I'm so tired of trying and still falling behind." David held her hands, rough and worn like his own. "I know," he said. "But quitting would cost us more than any bill ever could." The next morning, despite the pain, David went back to work. He moved slower, suffered silently, and came home each night barely able to stand. Maria saved every dollar, skipped meals, and smiled through her exhaustion. They never let Ethan see their fear. Years passed like that. Quiet sacrifices, invisible battles. Ethan grew older. He started working part-time after school, not because his parents asked him to, but because he wanted to help. He watched how his father never complained, how his mother always found hope even on the worst days. Slowly, something changed inside him. The embarrassment turned into respect. The shame turned into determination. In high school, Ethan discovered a love for learning. He studied late into the night, often at the kitchen table while his parents slept. When he got accepted into a state college, the letter felt unreal. But joy quickly turned into worry. "How will we pay for this?" Maria asked softly. David looked at his son and smiled. "We'll figure it out. We always do." They sold what little they had. Maria took extra jobs. David worked through the pain. Ethan earned scholarships and worked part-time. It wasn't easy, but it was possible. Years later, on graduation day, Ethan stood in his cap and gown, scanning the crowd. He spotted his parents immediately. David in an old suit that didn't quite fit, Maria in a simple dress she'd worn before. They were crying openly, not caring who saw. In that moment, Ethan finally understood. They were never poor. They were builders. They built a future with tired hands and hopeful hearts. Today, Ethan is successful. But the greatest lesson he carries isn't about money or status. It's about love that doesn't quit, parents who don't give up, and sacrifices that change generations. When people talk about poor dad and poor mom, Ethan smiles. Because he knows the truth. They were the richest parents he could have ever asked for.